This original WSRE presentation is made possible by viewers like you. Thank you.
Hello everyone, I'm Rameca Vincent Leary and welcome to this edition of inStudio. Homelessness is a global issue that cannot be ignored, and right in our own backyard locally, many agencies are joining forces to expand the conversation and foster life-changing solutions. So you may be wondering, how can we reach beyond ourselves to lend a helping hand with these efforts? Stay with us, you'll find out more right after this. Welcome back, everyone. During this edition of inStudio, we'll be speaking with representatives from several organizations that have made it their mission to help combat homelessness on many levels. Some are Loaves and Fish's Soup Kitchen, Waterfront Rescue Mission, and the Pensacola Police Department. But first, we'll focus our attention on the following organizations: Opening Doors and Lakeview Center. I'm happy to welcome John Johnson, Executive Director of Opening Doors. He's joined by Dr. David Josephs from Lakeview Center. It's also a pleasure to introduce Mike Wood, Public Information Officer for the Pensacola Police Department. Welcome to all of you gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
How are you doing tonight?
Wonderful.
Good.
That is good. Mike, let's start with you. Homelessness, as we know, is such a pressing issue. Do we have any statistics for the Pensacola area?
As far as how many?
Yes.
I don't know. I don't have that number with me, but I can tell you it's there. I wouldn't say in hundreds, but I wouldn't say 10. So it just depends. A lot of it depends on the time of year.
That's true. And then again, if someone doesn't come forward for services, then you may not know, right?
Yeah.
A lot of people out there.
Exactly. And again, I am involved with just the city limits. There's also Escambia County, which is much bigger than us. So there's homeless folks all in the area.
Everywhere.
And so yeah, we deal with them in the city and try our best to help them out any way we can, whenever we can.
All right. Dr. Josephs, Lakeview Center. What a beaming smile that you have, and I know you help a lot of people. Give us an overview of Lakeview, because there are so many facets.
Lakeview is a community mental health center that we serve about 26,000 people every year, and individuals who have periods of homelessness are a portion of the individuals that we serve. Of course, Lakeview Center's mission of helping people through life's challenges is everyone. And we feel that, in a sense, we're all vulnerable. Certainly individuals who are homeless are in many ways no different than the rest of us.
You have a firm affiliation with Baptist Healthcare. Would you like to expand on that?
Yes, we have been affiliated with Baptist Healthcare since 1996, and the affiliation and coordination between general healthcare and mental health care has really helped strengthen the organization and strengthen the services we provide as a group.
Now, the coverage for the services, 4 counties, quite expansive, Dr. Joseph.
Yeah, and also through our global connections to employment, actually help people with disabilities in many states in the United States.
All right, we'll come back to you in just a moment. So, John, Opening Doors, and I love the name, Opening Doors. Give us an overview of the organization.
Opening Doors, we recently rebranded Rameca. We used to be called Escrosa Coalition on the Homeless, not very memorable, and that name sort of did not transcend with what we want to do in this coming year. So I got with my board of directors and we rebranded to Opening Doors Northwest Florida, because we believe that people deserve a hand up and not a handout, and that everyone deserves a place to stay. And so our mission is to see that everyone who is homeless, if they are interested, receive a home.
So 30 years is quite a long time, serving both Santa Rosa and Escambia counties. And I know that you mentioned hoping that everyone has a home. Now, do you provide any shelter services?
We don't ourselves,
Okay.
but we have started an initiative called Housing First, where we literally take a person who is homeless and we assess them and we put them in their own place, whether it's an apartment or a trailer, and we cover their initial setup as far as rent, utilities, and things of that nature to get them started.
I love that. Now, there are prevention programs as well,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Talk a little bit about that.
You know, and Housing First is an initiative, but there are other options. Some folks are not ready to go right into permanent housing, and so residential treatment is a pathway for them to deal with their addictions and things of that nature. And so we have partners in the community that we refer to, and it's a warm referral.
Yes.
We don't just say go down the street and get checked in. We actually do the case management and coordinate the agency receiving the person.
That's good. Now, Mike, I know that throughout Pensacola and other areas, sometimes we'll see people that are asking for money on the street. Some call it panhandling, and your heart goes out, right?
It does. It does with everybody. We're just like anyone else. We don't like to see it. We want to see everybody. They're human beings. Everybody needs access to a home, to food, to clothing. And we get out with these individuals and we talk to them and we make sure they understand that there are places to go in this area for those necessities. And on occasion, we'll have people that just don't want the help. And that's kind of puzzling to me. They've got their own reasons, I'm sure. But in other cases, especially during inclement weather, they're ready to go. So we're going to talk to them and get the services to them as best we can, and sometimes that involves just giving them a coat or a blanket, and we'll do that.
All right, information is key, absolutely. So, Dr. Joseph, back to you. There are a lot of veterans who are homeless. Let's talk about that, because PTSD.
Post-traumatic stress disorder, of course, depression, and then the other mental illness, mental illnesses. Our hearts go out to veterans, of course, because of what veterans have done for us and for this country. And I think that seeing veterans, people who have done so much, and who really deserve better than being on the streets. But they don't often want to be there. It's a function sometimes of missed opportunities, and sometimes it's a function of mental illness.
So expanding on mental illness, and we know one of the many services, because there's so many facets, as we know, to Lakeview, is to try to place people in jobs, correct?
Correct. And that's global connections to employment. Probably one of the best things that we can do for an individual is that folks have pride in themselves and what they do, a purpose, and that's true for most of us. So working brings that back to many individuals. The mental health treatment, housing are ways really to just get people back to, in a sense, who they are.
So what would you say to the person who may be suffering from PTSD, who says, hey, I've hit rock bottom. Is there any hope for me? Why should I even try? Words that I know you've probably heard often, but how do you encourage that individual?
It's usually a relationship. I mean, most of it is meeting people where they're at. It's difficult for folks to tell people things if you don't have that lived experience. So a big piece of what we say is things change. You know, most of us have experienced things in life that we didn't think would change, but they do. And so simply giving people the opportunity to experience that things might be different tomorrow or the next day.
I'd be curious to hear a success story. Of course, no names we know, but in your line of work, a lot of times you'll get bad news, but let's hear some good news.
Well, I guess one good news and a case that sticks out in my mind, and some of the brightest, most talented people I've ever met have been people with mental illness. In fact, one of those people happened to have been homeless.
Okay.
A college professor who actually was an engineer who had a traumatic event in his life. And if you saw him, you'd think he was a typical person who just lived on the streets and wanted to live on the streets. With treatment and with actually connecting back to the things he knew, which in many cases is a challenge, his family who love him, who had become disconnected from, and treatments for his issues. And he had some post-traumatic stress disorder issues also. He really recovered and did much better.
That's good, and treatment being essential, but going to that proper resource as yourself, right?
Yeah, I certainly encourage people to come for mental health treatment, but most important really is that people get help. And it is the people that they feel most comfortable with. And in some cases, it is not a mental health expert. In some cases, actually, it's law enforcement.
True.
People actually have wonderful relationships with law enforcement officers, and they are frequently the keys to change things. They're ministers.
Right.
And honestly, in many cases, it's family.
Very good advice there. So you mentioned previously, John, some of the partnerships that you have with other organizations or providers. Let's hear about some of those.
Well, we have, so when you think about opening doors, we are, charged with being the lead agency to coalesce partnerships in both the Escambia and Santa Rosa County. We look for ways to address homelessness, but our charge is to make sure we understand the populations and the subpopulations of homelessness. For example, there is a huge population of children, and we call them the hidden homeless, that many are not even aware of. We have partnerships with shelters that provide beds for families. We have partnerships with Waterfront, Loaves and Fishes. We have partnerships with Catholic Charities, Lakeview Center, and many, many more organizations.
So you mentioned children, and I think of children smiling, and then on the flip side, we think of children that are frowning and feeling neglected. I know that must really impact you personally.
Yes.
Tugs at your heartstrings, doesn't it?
Right. And we don't have enough beds to support families with children. Loaves and Fishes is one of the partnerships that we have, but they're very limited in the number of families that they can take in. In fact, they turn away about 30 to 40 families per month.
And we'll be hearing from them shortly,
Yes,
right? You're
yes.
going to be joining Loaves and Fishes in just a few moments, but I see the emotion on your face, and it's heart-wrenching. Right, Mike? I recently heard a story about a lady who had done really well in life, but she fell on hard luck financially, and she and her children were actually homeless, okay? And they would sleep on the bridge, the 3-mile bridge. And they would fish over the pier so that they could eat. And one of the organizations here actually reached out to help them. So I would probably assume that you have people come up to you in that situation, right?
We've had
police
them,
officer.
That's right. We've had them, in some cases, come to the police department saying that they just got into town and they need help. And we're going to, again, we know the places to call, the folks to call. You've got several of them here tonight. And we will make contact with those people and get them help. One thing we will not do is turn anybody away. If they ask for help, that's what we're there for, and that's what we're going to do.
All right, stay right where you are, folks. As we head to break, get those pens and pencils ready. To find out more information about Lakeview Center, log on to the website information being displayed right now on the screen, www.elakeviewcenter.org. The website for Opening Doors is www.openingdoorsnwfl.org. Stay with us. We'll be back right after this. Hello, everyone. During this segment, we're happy to welcome back John Johnson, Executive Director of Opening Doors. He's joined by Faye Hill, Emergency Family Director with Loaves and Fishes Soup Kitchen. Plus, once again, we have Mike Wood, Public Information Officer with the Pensacola Police Department. So let's get the discussion started, Faye. How long has Loaves and Fishes Soup Kitchen been in existence?
Well, Loaves and Fishes was organized in the year of 1983 at Child's Kitchen, downtown Pensacola, before we moved to our location, our current location, which is 257 East Lee Street. So we've been here for over about 36 years in existence.
That is amazing. And speaking of kitchen, because I tell you what, you feed a lot of people. And I'm not talking about bagged lunches. I'm talking about 3-4 course meals. Why don't you talk about the kitchen service and how the community comes together to make all that happen?
Well, we have various organizations in our community like Rotary Club and various churches, and different groups come together and they volunteer. We basically work on volunteers, and they actually come there. They either bring the food to us, or they come and prepare the food at the kitchen. And what they do, they serve breakfast, right, Monday through Friday, full course breakfast, which, like you say, you've seen it already.
Right.
Yeah.
And they serve dinner every Sunday afternoon, and we serve dinner on Mondays and Wednesdays to the general public, but every day to our families that's in the emergency family shelter. And we also serve lunch on Saturday at 11:30.
Now, I couldn't help but notice canned goods, so dissemination, right? Providing those elements. Talk about that as well.
Yes, we same groups, churches, schools, and everything. They actually do food drives for us, and they donate canned goods and everything for us to have in our pantry to serve the families the meals, and during holiday seasons and things like that. That's when we get our greatest amount of food donations in. But that's how we get our food.
All right, you are making me hungry. Okay, John, back to you. Now, I know that there have been a lot of success stories affiliated with Opening Doors. Can you think of one that really stands out in the forefront of your mind?
Yes, and she's given us freedom to use her name.
Okay.
This was a lady that had been recently discharged from prison, and she had served 10 years, and she served her time. And she went right into an emergency shelter at Women with Clear Vision. We case managed her and provided her with the rental assistance, utility assistance that I spoke about in our Housing First initiative. And just after just a couple of months of being in the program, she got a job at Joe Patty's. And the assistance that we provided her lasted for only a couple of months, and now she's in her own apartment, and she can see her grandchildren, which is just incredible, just watching her. And she has been such a great encouragement to others that we've served.
Now, here's the thing. So someone like her, right, word of mouth will network and tell other people.
Right.
That may be down and out and feel there is no hope. Have you experienced a lot of that?
Oh, yes. And when we house some of the homeless, they'll go get their buddies and they'll tell them about us, and we will house them as well. And so it's been a great process. One of the hardest things that we battle when we go out and we do our street outreach is that they don't trust us. And so building up that trust, you can't have a better spokesperson than another homeless person to tell the story about what we're doing and how we're trying to help.
And as we mentioned previously, that lived experience or phenomenology, that's so important, someone that's already been there.
Yes.
All right. So, Mike, I know that there are many police officers that volunteer for these numerous organizations, right? You want to talk about that a little?
Well, they're all over the place, and on different committees and boards, and wherever we're asked to go, Chief Leiter, make sure that somebody is staffed, somebody is going to be there. So, and then that's been going on for a long time, and we're going to keep that up. So wherever the need is, we will be there.
That's exceptional. Now, let me get back to you, Faye. I saw some images from the thrift store. There are a lot of people walking around that don't even have a pair of shoes to put on their feet. That is so heart-wrenching. There were some images of people actually receiving shoes and the happy donors right beside them. Some people may think, hey, a pair of shoes, does it really have a lot of weight? Yes, it does.
Yes, it
Explain
does.
why.
Yes, it does. Because when you see a family, I am the Emergency Family Shelter Director, when you see a family comes in and they don't have shoes on and the children don't have shoes on, and what we do in the shelter, I actually issue a voucher to go up to our thrift store to get free. You know, because we do get donations from the community, so they get these things free, whether it be clothing, shoes, whatever they need from the thrift store, and they get to select those items themselves. No one selected for them. They get to walk through the store, shop themselves, and select the items.
Now, I also saw some images where they look like bagged toiletries, maybe basic essentials, toothpaste, a toothbrush, could have even been some socks in there. A lot of times people will forget about those things, right?
Right. And with those items like that, we also service homeless men, single men and women that comes through our program, through the front door or through the kitchen area, the dining room area. So we have donors that brings that for us. It's called like a survivor kit. And so what we distribute those to those individuals, because the family gets a lot, but single individuals can come in the shelter and they go through the front door and speak with our receptionist, and she will give them a survivor kit, whether it be toothpaste, socks, soap, shampoo, whatever they need. You know, we give those bags out to those individuals.
I have to mention that looking at your shelter, so pristine, I'm just so wholesome and welcoming. Do you house families or how is that decided?
We do house families, whether it be men who's raising children, because not only women raise children, have children, but men who raises children, women who raises children, grandparents who has custody of their grandchildren, women who are pregnant. And so we do house various, types of families there. And the families actually first call into the shelter. I do a phone assessment with them. And once I do the phone assessment, I get them to come in to actually do the paperwork, and it doesn't take that long. And they get to stay in the shelter for a period of 3 weeks, not including the weekends. So everything totaled out to almost a month.
All right. And speaking of that screening process, opening doors, is there a specific screening process for those who come through?
Yes, we do an exhaustive coordinated entry assessment where we evaluate the vulnerability of each of the individuals that come into our organization, trying to assess the need and determine the priority.
That's good. That's exceptional. Now, Mike, I was watching a newscast maybe 2 weeks ago. There was a lady that went into a convenience store in another state, not in this area, who didn't have milk for her children so that they could have some cereal. Instead of arresting her, he actually went out and bought some groceries for her, but then also introduced her to an agency or two that could assist her. Have you seen any similar situations like that here in the Pensacola area?
I've been a police officer for 32 years, and I've seen that often. I've done it. Just about every police officer I know has done it, whether it be pay for some milk, some water, maybe a dinner at a fast food restaurant.
Right.
We will do that. I can't stand to see that happen, and we're going to do that. But there's a catch to it. We offer them assistance, and we're going to get you this meal. But hey, what else do you need? Can we get you help? I don't want to just pay for the meal and then just leave them there. So we want to ask what their situation is and make sure they're going to be okay, because after that meal, they're going to get hungry again, and we want to make sure that they have help from that point on.
And I like that, help from that point on, because in this news story that I was viewing a short time ago, the police officer said, I don't want to arrest this woman and put her in jail for trying to get some milk for her child. Look,
I've had calls where people were detained for shoplifting, and they were taking diapers or food. You got to make, as a police officer, you got to make a decision. Is this a criminal, or is this somebody that needs help? And those are decisions that we as individual officers have to make, and we make them. Again, if it's somebody that's what we call a frequent flyer that shoplifts all the time, that's one thing. Right. But if it's a mother and she's got 2 kids and she needs diapers, that's totally something else. And we see the difference.
Absolutely. Now, John and LaFaye, there is a relationship. You all have known one another for quite some time. Who would like to chat about that? LaFaye?
Ladies first.
Okay, ladies first, right, LaFaye?
Yes. We've been knowing each other. I came aboard with Loaves and Fishes in the 90s as an intern, but we've been knowing each other since about 2004. When I came as a director of the emergency family shelter, and we've been working aside each other with the homeless and tag teaming with the January homeless count and name it, claim it.
Name it, claim it. Preventing loss of housing collaboratively, right?
Correct.
The 2 of you. Have you, I know you've probably seen a big improvement in people actually securing housing with the efforts.
I have. And speaking about the relationship, just going back to that, Rameca, LaFaye is incredibly passionate when it comes to homeless families. And we, Sergeant Wood talked about all of the police officers giving. And I've seen in our nonprofits, especially LaFaye, just working late hours, just making sure that all of the needs of the families are attended to. They're tucked in and they have the resources that they need. An awesome, awesome strategist when it comes to case management, service delivery, and helping people get jobs. But this relationship, has been one of the things that we do in the community is as opening doors, is establish those remarkable relationships so that we have a back door into helping families receive assistance.
That is so true. And let's talk about young people, children. Yeah. Here at Pensacola State College, we've had several instances of homeless students, and I know there are a lot of children out there that have grumbling stomachs as they head to school, right? And they'll put on a happy face, but we cannot forget the children, right?
Right. And the partnerships that we have with the school district is incredibly important for Escambia and Santa Rosa County. Michelle Tucker is one of our points of contacts, our liaison with the school district of Escambia County, and Dr. Karen Barber is our point of contact in Santa Rosa County. And understanding when a youth is identified that is homeless, connecting them with us and making sure they get case management assistance is paramount to, first making sure we feed them and they get the meals and services that they need.
That is so essential. And Mike, I know, of course, I live in Gulf Breeze and I see the school children walking to and fro. Have you ever encountered a little one who may have said, hey, I'm hungry, where can I get something to eat?
Yeah, absolutely. And the first thing we got to do is find out where that child came from.
Yes.
And work backwards from there. But the first thing we're going to do is tend to any current or any emergency needs that child has at the moment. We're going to make sure that that's taken care of, find out the parent, where the parent or the guardian was, and we'll take it from that point.
Awesome. Great information. So folks, to find out more information about Loaves and Fishes Soup Kitchen, we're displaying that website information right now on the screen. It's www.loavesandfishessoupkitchen.com. Don't touch that dial. We'll be back in a moment. We're back, and during this segment, we're shifting our focus to Waterfront Rescue Mission and its many services. It's a pleasure to welcome Devin Simmons, President. He's joined by Angie Ishee, Vice President of Public Relations and Development. We're also excited to have Chris, who's with the organization's Recovery and Career Development Program. Finally, we round out the segment with our good friend, Mike Wood, Public Information Officer with the Pensacola Police Department. Thank you for staying on for another segment. Now, Devin, let's start with you. Please discuss the mission of the organization.
Sure. I noticed Mike's here to keep everybody at bay.
Oh, in line.
Yeah, keep us in line.
Absolutely.
You know, the mission is really an extension of, I call it the better part of Pensacola. You know, we do rescue and recovery services. And so for those that might get left behind, might get forgotten, fall on hard times, we provide that rescue piece, emergency type of a response. Our long game is to hopefully help someone transition. You heard of a number of services here today, and we're only as good as everyone that's come on the show before.
Right, a piece of the puzzle, so to speak.
So we have the opportunity at Waterfront to be that bridge between rescue and recovery, working with other partners. We spend a good bit of our time with dedicated towards men's services. In the emergency side, it's men, women, and children. We want to get people in the right place as quickly as possible. For the men, we have a shelter for them, and then we have a program for them, which I know we'll talk about a little bit later.
We certainly will. Since 1949, Angie, such a long time. Getting the word out, right? I know that there are strategies involved with that, but I know you have compassion for what you do, right? Expand on that, please.
That's right. So as you said, this is Waterfront's 70th anniversary, and not only is it our responsibility to get the word out so that people can be part of what we do, but people in this community, as Devin said, are the reason that Waterfront exists. The people who donate to our stores. We have 8 thrift stores that support the work of Waterfront. They donate to those, they shop at the stores, and then they donate and volunteer at Waterfront Rescue Mission, and they have for 70 years. So Waterfront serves over 3,000 unique individuals every single year. So it takes a lot of people to wrap those services around them and provide all of the help that they need to get back on their feet.
One of the things that I really like, you have these little yellow cards that you send out, and I'm actually, I've done a thing or two there. Hey, and I encourage all of you to do the same, okay? So PR, getting that word out. I had a recent move, and I said, okay, let me call it Waterfront.
Thank you.
Oh, somebody needs a washer and dryer. Okay, let's go ahead.
That's right.
Yes, do what you can, folks. That's right. Chris, I'm in your corner right now. Let me tell you, a lot of times we hear the bad news, right? Bad news, bad news. Oh, come on, give me some good news. You have an interesting story. Tell us about it.
Well, I've been living in my car for about a year after I had fallen into some hard times. I did fall into depression hard with alcohol, of course, and come to this program, and I've done the full recovery portion now in the career development part, where I've been working in the warehouse. I've gotten my certification for driving forklift, as well as operating hazardous material class 3 pallet jacks.
That is awesome. So other people that come through the doors, right?
Yes.
They see you, they encounter you, you share your story. Talk about how you have encouraged others to reach beyond themselves to help someone else.
I've seen it many times. I'll just see random people saying, oh, I'm just staying the night, I'm just here, I talk for them a little bit, and it's like, you know, this program really helped me. It's like I would show my old picture when I first came in. It was like 130 pounds and this frail, broken thing, and then I'm this now. And I was like, well, really, if you just try it out, just see what they can do for you, because there's a lot of good programs, or a lot good in the program, rather, and counseling and everything else you could possibly need out of it. They give you worth. I mean, I didn't think I'd be able to work ever again.
Hey, but you are.
Yeah, exactly.
You know I'm coming back to you, right?
Oh.
Okay, Mike. I know late at night, right? Maybe, hey, okay, you see people wandering and maybe come up to your vehicle. Hey, I'm homeless. I need a place to stay. And I know that you shelter men. So are there any that say, I don't know, will they let me in? What do you tell them? Because you know they will.
Yeah, we tell them that they will. I got to tell you, and this could take up a whole
no,
segment,
go ahead,
so
go
you're going to have to make me be quiet.
You know, you're police officer, so
I was invited to go tour Waterfront Mission yesterday, and it was nothing short of amazing what they do. I had no idea. And if I stopped and talked to a man on the way here just this afternoon that was panhandling on the corner of 9th and Fairfield, and I asked him if he was familiar with it. He was. I asked him if he would go back, and he said, no, not today. And I know this is a crazy idea, but you know, if we have an issue with panhandlers in Pensacola. People want to know how to fix that. I wish we could give them permits to panhandle, but before you could get a permit, you must go through their program and successfully complete it. And then let's see how many of them want that permit.
That's true.
So, you know, it's just something like that. I wish, you know, you can stand here and panhandle if you want to, but first you got to go see them. And you got to go through their program and you got to complete it. And I'm hoping that would take care of a lot of it, but it was amazing what I saw. It's not a soup kitchen. It's not a place to stay and then you have to leave the next day. They make sure that you have a chance to improve your life, turn your life around, and keep it that way. And it was nothing short of amazing.
That is so true. Let's talk about the day services, the resources that are offered. Now, during the day, women can come in and wash clothes. We talk about that because I know that the shelters are for the men, but let's talk about the women and what they have access to.
Yep. So we have a dedicated resource. We have John Finley. He's a one-man band, but he has a number of volunteers and some others there, and they help navigate people to correct services if they haven't been through opening doors or haven't connected with someone. That's really where we want to get them headed to housing or to services. It could be Lakeview, could be others. Again, we have a good network. But in the meantime, they may need a meal. They may need to get off their feet, may need access to a computer. They may need to wash their clothing. And so we have all those facilities there for them to take advantage of that while they get on their feet and determine what's the next best step for them.
I like the fact that there's a library and also there are storage lockers. That's important because a lot of times people are out there, they say, I have a blanket, I have a pair of shoes, I don't want anyone to steal it. Yep. But I think it's great that you do offer that service in addition to everything else.
We do.
It's phenomenal.
Yep.
Okay, Chris, I told you I was coming back, right? So I know that you're trained, you're a forklift driver. Do you train others? Talk about that. Have you trained others for different services?
Oh, yeah, mainly the new people that have come over that are in the program, they are required to work a little bit for us. So I've trained a few of them in the production room as to how to sort our donated goods, as to where they're supposed to go, clothing, or as we call them, hard goods, which is like electronics or hardware or things of that nature, household items. And I've been training a lot of those new guys.
Now, I know that some people are a little scared. I know you mentioned that, Mike, right? So you got somebody that comes in, as you mentioned previously, that says, I don't know anyone. Maybe they're new to the area. Have you ever comforted anyone in that respect? And I know that your testimonial speaks volumes, but you still might have someone treading on what we call trepidation, right?
Oh, yes. I mean, there's a lot of great fellowship in the program. I always tell them, it's like they mean it when they have a big sign in there that says, if you don't have a friend in the world, you have one here. You'll find one here, rather. And it's very true. I mean, I've met some of the greatest people I've probably met through this program.
That's right. So, Angie, there are personal meeting rooms for community service providers. I like that. Would you like to maybe discuss some of the community providers that use the service?
Sure. VA comes at least twice a week. We have a dedicated veterans dorm because 15% of those seeking services at Waterfront are U.S. veterans. Yes. And interesting, Rameca, is that only 9% of the homeless in the United States are veterans. So those coming to Waterfront, which tells me that the veterans are really coming to seek help. So VA comes on campus, and yes, we provide space for them. Opening Doors comes, and you heard from some of the other partners that we have, and they're insurance providers, and we have mentors who come and volunteers who come and meet with our guys and help them get to the next step. We're bridge builders. That's what we do. That.
So Devin, a major component is the addiction recovery program. Please tell us more about that.
Yeah, I'm going to start with a story. You know, one of the great things I like when I watch these guys, I get to work early sometimes, not every day, but sometimes I get to work early and I'll sit in my truck and I'm on the phone and I'll watch them and I can usually tell them, I know day one, you're looking at the ground. Day one, you're just not pulled together. The face doesn't look good. And then a few days later, a few months later, you look like this guy. You're smiling, heads up, you're making eye contact. And so that's addressing a number of life-dominating issues, whether it's drugs, whether it's alcohol, abusive situations, pornography. There's a number of things that can dominate the life and rob you of who you were designed to be. So starting with a friendship, starting with a warm relationship. You heard other providers talk about the need to have a safe place. First, we want them to know we care. And in that environment, then we get down and try to crack open those behavioral things and those things that may have been harmful in the past to help them set a new trajectory. These folks, like, this is 1 in a million, right?
Yes, he is.
But there's a lot of folks that come through with potential and opportunity, but somewhere along the way they've been robbed of something. They've been robbed of hope. And so as part of the addiction recovery, it's a number of things, but it starts with, can we get in here?
Yes.
And can we help you realize you were really made for something greater than what you're experiencing today?
So vocational transition opportunities, I know you touched on that a little bit, Chris, but Devin, I know that there are several avenues that can be taken. Do you want to mention any specific transition opportunities?
Sure, sure. So if we really care, we want you to go back and have better skills, better equipped. And also, we're experiencing growth in GED programs. Pensacola State, working with Pensacola State, George Stone, other technically related opportunities with Escarosa and others, and our partners throughout the community. We really aspire that everyone, when they leave that sidewalk, when they leave, that if they come back, they have the ability to give a donation.
Yes.
Because they've bettered their life. They've bettered themselves. And so our end game is turn the emergency situation, but we want you healthy, whole, and even more productive than you were. And a better career is the way to do that.
I love that. Angie, there are also recreational activities. Any aspiring golfers out there for those who are watching the Masters? But if not, what else could be a possibility?
For the guys who are in the program, we want them to get plugged into the community and learn how to not just survive, but to thrive. So they get careers, they have mentors. We want them to get involved in church and other activities in the community. Some of them are in college, as Devin said, and we want them to get plugged in and learn how to thrive in this community, learn that police officers are their friends. We want them to
we like Mike.
We like Mike.
Oh, we all,
that's right.
we all like Mike.
Exactly.
Speaking of Mike, you've probably volunteered a time or two, maybe even recreationally, or other officers, right?
Yeah, in different capacities over 32 years. I'm ashamed to say I can't remember all of them. Currently on the Crime Stoppers board, but we don't want anybody to be afraid of us. Having to be heavy-handed and forceful is what we hate. We hate that. We don't like. That's the worst part of our job. And fortunately, it's a very minute part of our job. We want these people to be able to come up to us and talk to us and ask for help, because that's exactly what they're going to get.
Spot on. Good information. So, folks, to find out more information about the Waterfront Rescue Mission, log on to the website, www.waterfrontmission.org. Reaching beyond ourselves can be impacting on many levels. We'll be back in a moment. Hello, everyone. During this segment, our focus is on specific benchmarks for the community in relation to homelessness. The overarching question is, where do we go from here? I'm happy to welcome back Devin Simmons, President of Waterfront Rescue Mission. He's joined by Mike Wood, Public Information Officer with the Pensacola Police Department. Thank you for appearing with us during the entire show. Plus, we asked Dr. David Josephs with Lakeview Center to come back for this final segment. Gentlemen, glad to see you again. And of course, I know that recently in the Pensacola area, there was a homeless summit that was held, and a lot of issues were discussed. Many agencies were in attendance. We're going to cover 4 themes that were discussed during that summit, the first of which is more housing. So I'm going to start with you, Devin.
Sure.
And let's just honestly just explore ideas amongst yourselves, okay?
Yeah. First of all, you know, the summit itself was fantastic because it had tension.
Yes.
There was a lot of good discussion, healthy discussion. I commend the mayor and Councilman May for pulling that together, a very difficult topic. You know, housing it's really two-faceted. It's the housing, and then it's affordable housing. And that income gap is pretty, you know, it's a pretty tough tightrope, the difference between $500 a month and $750. Can I be in a neighborhood or a place that's safe or not? And many times, if a person has fallen into those tough circumstances, that $250 a month may be the difference.
And nationally, what we've found in Opening Doors is an example of this is that housing first makes the difference, right? Get somebody housed first, and then try and wrap the services around them. The offices meet people on the street who are in all stages of engagement in our system. We've got to house them first and then wrap the services around them. And it's really a population management strategy. Many individuals have medical issues as well as mental health issues. So if they're housed first, then we can kind of work on those things and try and bring them whole again.
That's true. And Mike, out in the field, I know that you run into a lot of people that don't have a place to stay, right? And I know we've talked or touched on that, but looking toward the future, what could you add in relation to more housing?
Well, I know the discussion's going on, and you have to have a roof over your head. These are human beings we're talking about. Every single one of them, no matter what's happened in their life, no matter how they got to where they are, deserves a roof over their head. And the discussion's going on. Like you said, it can be heated at times, and that's a good thing. Let's get this done. Let's don't put a Band-Aid on it and kick the can down the road. It'll be great to see something happen to help this and maybe be a model community for others. You
know, Mike, I think also what helps in that is the understanding that the roof itself has to be supported. Right. And so we talked about career development. There's 90 Works and other agencies that John and others refer to at the community to help lift the life skills and the educational skills also, so that the wage allows them to move into affordable housing.
Yeah, and I think what was really good about the summit is an understanding that in many cases we really don't have to reinvent the wheel. Pensacola and the culture of this community is a giving community. We have relationships in this community with law enforcement, with like Waterfront, Opening Doors, that frankly other communities don't have. Good, and there's a lot that we're doing right. We simply just need to do more of that. And so it's coordination. And so I don't think we need to find a new strategy. We just need to do more of the strategies that work, which is primarily coordination. It's primarily many of the individuals that law enforcement will touch in one day may be touched by a hospital system, a mental health system, and also the missions.
Yeah. As we continue to improve on those systems, my hope is, like within healthcare, if you can reduce those overlaps, if you can better orchestrate where you go next in the case management and in the needs, then you may reduce an ambulance trip or two, or someone being picked up in an area where they just got lost or they were in the wrong spot, and all of a sudden a police officer has to deal with something that really wasn't even an issue. But coordination would help us do that, help all the providers get a little, we'll get better at that.
Absolutely. And Devin, data sharing and case management, items 2 and 3 of the 4 themes. So absolutely, just getting on the same page. Yeah. How can data sharing and case management be enhanced? Gentlemen.
There was a pause there. Did you feel that?
Yes, I sort of felt it. No, but seriously.
Well, that's a big endeavor. You know, healthcare has been dealing for a while. It's really a population health management type of approach. But as Dr. Joseph said, there's a lot of things in place and have been in place. It's now tightening it up.
Yeah, I think data sharing is, there are pieces of data we have that we need to share. I think it's data sharing systems that really are the challenge. Yeah. And the more, what large systems and communities are finding is it's not so much that it's a money issue, it's what are we spending our money on. Yes. It's expensive to lock people up.
Absolutely.
Why not spend the money to give them a hand up? Okay,
Like that.
and I think this is why I think the courage of the mayor and the councilman to kind of, let's rethink this. Yeah. Let's work a little bit smarter rather than a little bit harder, and spend our money, which is the people's money, a little bit more wisely.
Volunteerism could be a huge component, right? So there are a lot of people that are skilled in various areas, CPAs, you have people in the medical profession, et cetera, law enforcement. So maybe even bringing more volunteers that might, okay, you don't need to pay me for this, I'll just a few hours a week. So I'm sure that could have possibly been mentioned.
You know, from the not only the moral support of an individual who may be going, or a family that may be going through a difficult time, just to know that someone's there. You're right, their skill set. I passed someone in the parking lot today. Our public relations assistant was working with them, and she said, you know, here's this great couple walked up. They're moving to the community. He wants to teach financing. He used to be a banker. She does something else. She was paid very well. She said, I don't want anything. I just want to come donate time.
That's awesome.
And so those are things that help immediately. They'll help an individual transition. And then she wants to teach classes. So those are life skills that a person will take with them to, you know, as I say, I would love everybody to get $2, $3, $4, $5 per hour wage increase to keep them out of that treacherous situation potentially.
And what Devin's talking about to a large degree for us is a paradigm shift. It's a capacity for us as a community to change and think about what could be. It's going to be difficult to do that if we don't actually hear from the people who it's happening to or with. And so I think a strategy is peer specialists. You heard Chris's story, which was so powerful.
It was.
Is that if we don't start understanding that these are just people, it's not a homeless person. It's a person who happens to be homeless.
Yes.
It's not a schizophrenic. It's a person who happens to have the illness of schizophrenia or the illness of depression, all of which is treatable and manageable. You know, there are 40,000 people who die every year from suicide, 60,000 from drug abuse. That's 100,000 lives that with some coordination we could really save.
Absolutely. And the fourth theme, more day centers, or the need for more day centers. And I know that Waterfront really has a heavy hand in that. So Devin, let me come over to you.
Yeah, so you know, a resource, and you know, we're spread out as a county. It's kind of a tough, this is a tough one. I mean, honestly, this is just pretty tough. Because, you know, what you need is someone who can spend multiple places. Is it a family? Is it a female? It is a, what are the issues? And then how do you move them throughout the county? Transportation's a big issue. Transportation is a huge issue in getting an individual from one spot to another. Not just appointments, but just to a job. And so resource centers, not just one, but multiple resource centers will help individuals get quicker access to whatever it is they need, computer skills, individual direction, versus having to deal with, I've got to get all the way to Waterfront, for instance. They need something that's more regional in play than just a place in a county.
It's kind of like McDonald's, right? McDonald's is successful because there are McDonald's everywhere. You know, law enforcement is successful in many cases because law enforcement offices are where things are, where people are, and often their first responders are the first contact and the first hope actually that people have. And so I think spreading things out and helping the community, and you know, again, this is a generous community, is helping the community be part of this mission. And I think it was mentioned, we could be a model. We have all the stuff to be a model.
Transportation, I know you've probably picked people up and transported them from point A to point B. But I think about the vocational transition opportunities and how does a person get to a job once they have received the training, right? That would be such a huge thing if we could have a lot of people come together, like you said, Dr. Josephs, donate some vehicles, shuttle buses, or other modes of transportation, right?
Transportation is one of our biggest issues. So whether it's to our own location or our stores, or when we get them connected in the career development piece, quite frankly, we love them. We don't want them working for Waterfront, because we want them to get on out into the community and experience life with a mentor and with others. Well, that requires transportation. Part of our program is when you get to the end, we're going to teach you how to save money and buy a car.
Oh, good.
Because you're going to need the car to get to the job.
Yes, you are.
The other thing is, if where our homes are, we have some housing. It is close to transportation. And so we work with our career development staff to try to find job placement near public transportation. It's limiting at times, but that's what we have, and it works.
Proximity-wise, so important. And Dr. Joseph, let's say somebody needs to come see you, right, and they're lacking transportation.
Well, one of the things that Lakeview is doing, as well as many places in Florida now, we have mobile response teams that actually get out there.
Good.
And so some of the transportation, you know, a big part of all health care and actually all care is meeting people where they're at. Increasingly, where we need to be is to go to where the people are, including people who happen to be homeless, who may have mental health or substance use issues. And Devin said it earlier, is people only start trusting after they see you a couple of times.
Oh, yeah. Right, Mike? You may come into a neighborhood and you see the little kids. I mentioned grumbling stomachs previously. And, hey, Johnny, how are you doing today? How are those classes coming along? But if Johnny doesn't see you more than once, he may say, okay, he dropped out. So parting words, especially from a law enforcement perspective, what would you tell our viewing audience, really emphasizing the importance of this timely issue, pressing issue, homelessness?
Volunteer if you can. You mentioned that you need volunteers. Do that. If you are able to make donations to these fine organizations that you heard from tonight, certainly do that. When I was on the tour, I saw some of the lockers and other things that were provided by these donations, which is huge for them to complete their mission. So if you want to be a part of this, there are plenty of jobs, there are plenty of ways for you to help, and just do that. Give them a call and ask them, what can I do to help?
Absolutely. Take that first step. We can have conversations, but we need to follow them up with actions, gentlemen. Thank you all so much.
Thank you.
So, folks, as we close the show, I want to thank all of our guests for joining us. Viewers, we also appreciate your support. During the broadcast, we explored various facets of homelessness in our local area, but the conversation must continue. There's much work to be done, and every helping hand can make an impacting difference. I'm Rameca Vincent Leary. Have a good evening, and remember to keep it locked in right here on WSRE, PBS for the Gulf Coast.